Evening, everyone. Back to Everybody Knows We're Lame for another episode. I think we should start with the obvious that Kirk is back. So I think I might be in for smashing on Monday. It sounds like we'll see how that goes. But I'll get to that when the time comes. But I figured since you guys are here on the YouTube page, you might want to. This is your chance to say anything you want about the news from today.
I was excited. I did not expect you guys to be back in the studio on Monday. Like, Steve had said earlier that it looked like it was going to be probably like September. So I kind of always had maybe like the day after Labor Day in my mind. So to get him back this soon is great. And I'm glad that he's feeling well enough to do it. That's fantastic. It was a really good way to start the morning.
What about you, Timothy?
About the same. I am thrilled that he is feeling better about himself and getting the help that he needs, and that he's going to continue to do so. I thought that the post this morning was very, very encouraging. It's on his terms, so if he feels he should be back Monday, awesome. Obviously we're happy about that, but I am absolutely thrilled that he's getting help and that it seems like he knows he needs to deal with this on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and I mean, he sounded normal as ever. But I mean, he sounded normal before he left too. So who the fuck knows? But it was just good to hear him. When you hear the singing to start the show, you're like, okay, maybe things are getting back to normal a little bit. At least I hope so. So good to hear his voice. Also, good to know that he still hasn't quite mastered Periscope. While he is kind of the king of Periscope, he hasn't quite mastered it. So that was
certainly not. Well. Hey, the last thing I just want to say, what you just mentioned there, Mike, is that he's getting better, but that he knows this is his normal.
Yeah,
he's had it. He's living with this, and it is very unfortunate. But the fact that he recognizes that a lot of people don't, I think that's awesome, because he knows that this is his normal, and this is normal.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, I feel like I was burying the lead, but in honor of Kirk, I feel like I had to do that. But it's sad that he had to come back to a world where Cheers in Boston is closing down. I wish we could have done something to prevent that for him.
So, yeah, it is the Cheers that's in Faneuil Hall, not
the fake Cheers.
The fake Cheers.
The fake Cheers.
I remember when it opened. I don't know if you remember when it opened, Tim, but they made a big deal about it. It was like huge news.
Big draw. It was a big draw for a very long time. I'm more shocked that the thing was still freaking open.
Well, they didn't really half-assed. Like,
they really did.
My first Entercom event was the Today Show was in Boston at that Cheers, like the Friday before the Patriots were in the Super Bowl. So we had to go down and fucking hold up signs and shit like assholes. But that was the first time I was ever in there, and I was like, it's just a glass enclosed bar with a few pictures. It's like, that's pretty much it. It doesn't really look like the place or anything.
No.
And even I love the menu options where they like tried to incorporate the characters, but it's like Frasier's chicken panini.
You just remind me.
And it's like you just put a name in front of the fucking. Exactly. There's no tie-in. What is this?
Right. It's never been mentioned once on the show that he has an affinity for. Yeah, it's a great point. It was very slapped together. Let's just get a name on it. But you know what? It in the end, maybe it was brilliant because it pulled people in. Let's face it, Faneuil Hall is a huge tourist destination. You see Cheers, you recognize the name. Oh, let's go check it out. If you don't really watch the show, you might not know that it was that different. And
they sold it as being an exact replica. There was the whole thing. It was like, we're going to make this look exactly the way. And you go there and you're like, this looks nothing like it. It was total shit. No, I hated that place. Honestly, the part of me, I'm glad it's gone. Because it wasn't Cheers. It could be. Someone should do it right. Imagine if someone actually went in there and built an exact replica. That would be the coolest place to get.
That would be very cool.
It'd be pretty cool.
That would be very, very cool.
The Cheers, and for anyone that hasn't been to the fake Cheers in Boston, it would be like if I painted a background, like a green screen type thing of what the backdrop of Cheers looked like, and just had this fucking table in the center of it. It's really no different. It's like what I'm just at a regular bar, not even a regular bar. It was just shit.
Yeah.
So good riddance, Cheers.
Yeah, exactly.
We got the Ball and Finch or whatever the fuck it is. The real
Bull and Finch. So
yes.
I get to tie this into something that Chris and I were DMing about, and you a little bit, Mike, is so was Dale referring to the fake Cheers when he said that nobody really goes there? What a sanctimonious prick. That fucking country bumpkin from East Bumfuck, Maine, has the balls to say, we don't go to the Cheers, it's a tourist trap. He's full of shit. I'm born and bred from Boston. I've been to Cheers. It's where you go to meet girls. He's such an ass.
You're wrong, Tim. Dale said it was. It's not for regular people who live in Boston.
That's regular people. I know.
Only. That's what Dale said.
Listen, Tim, if we're talking scoring with chicks, I'm going to Dale Arnold. All right. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's funny listening to Dale do that because he was just getting a guy requesting him so we could get him to say things and play it on this stupid show, and it was also Dale pontificating on something he not only doesn't really know about but doesn't care about.
Right.
Like if I got that question, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't know. I like the show Cheers. I don't know if it was big here in Boston. Dale feels the need to go into this soliloquy about his experience with Cheers and how it relates to the great city that he loves. It's just like he comes off as such a pompous.
And how what you think you're watching is not right. Like he felt the need to dress down this.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what kind of person would reach out to Dale and try to get that done. Whoever did that is
psychopath.
Right, psycho, right. But whoever did write that probably wrote it in a very nice way and didn't need to be dressed down by Dale Arnold.
Right.
And I think Mike, you hit it on the head. Why I was annoyed by it is being a Bostonian. I love tourists. Tourist season was great when I was young and single. Me and my friends, that's what we would go to the touristy bars around Faneuil Hall because, frankly, the accent works.
Yeah,
it's on a little bit thick sometimes. You know, you get people that are there that are just out to have a good time. You know, they're spending a ton of money. He's such a dank. He doesn't. And in the fact that he's from out of town and says, well, that's only where out of towners go. Well, you know what, Dale? The city embraced you. The least you can do is instead of eating the town, you could at least embrace it.
Who's gotten laid more, Eddie Anderman or Dale Arnold?
Oh,
I think Eddie Anderman.
Me too.
I think Eddie.
I don't know a lot about Eddie Anderman. I would have to assume though.
Eddie's a hustler.
Yeah. Hot dog safari, the whole thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you see Eddie back in the late 60s, early 70s, some leisure suit just up on the North Shore going to Wayloos and just racking them up one after another.
And Eddie seems like a little bit of a dog, whereas Dale is kind of the the friend that'll pretend to be interested in your stories. You know,
he's the male cock block for a group of girls that go out.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, that is what Dale Arnold is.
Get Dale to go talk to those group of guys that keep hitting on us, and he's the guy that would do it.
Completely, he embodies that. Now, what I respect about you, Tim, is not only that Stephen Providence a couple weeks ago told us you're a Cheers expert, but furthermore, you're not only up to date on Cheers, like any good Cheers expert, you're up to date on this program. When I messaged you, I said, just so you know, we're on episodes 11 and 12. And Tim's like, Mike, come on. You think I'm not following along with this rocket ship? If I know Cheers, I'm watching this program.
You had me with the name of the show, lame. I love, like Steve. I loved Cheers when it was on. It was required viewing. It just was consistently good. It was one of those formulas that it barely ever, if maybe never, got serious. Like Seinfeld, right? There was never that that's how sitcoms now, they all got to have that, one where they address either personal or social issues and they bring it into the show. They never did that.
Yeah, they'll tug at your hearttestrings a little bit. And we saw a little bit of that in one of the episodes today, but there was never a very special episode.
They never They never teach you a lesson on Cheers.
Yeah, Norm has a drinking problem and they have to address it now or something.
Right. You care about the characters, but they never force feed shit down your throat, which I always respected about Cheers.
Although, Chris, I will say, looking back, right, and for you too, Mike, you going back and watching, especially the older shows, you're like, ooh, that wouldn't fly. Especially the episodes we're going to talk about, like the innuendos, the Tinkerbell because one guy hugged another, the monk that attacks Diane.
Right.
That stuff wouldn't even be on TV today.
Right.
And so I think it does kind of teach a lesson, like, it's probably not what you should be doing.
Now, having said all of that,
only in
today's context. I feel like the first episode fell a little flat. And I don't think I'm the only one, because I don't know if you noticed this. As we all know, Cheers is taped before a live studio audience. Right. And I feel like some of the jokes were not landing with the audience, which is kind of, you don't see that a lot in sitcoms.
No, this was not a great episode. This was written by Catherine Green. She never wrote another episode for Cheers. You can see why.
No,
it just doesn't work. The pacing is very slow. It's very plotty. It's just not a very good half hour of television. The characters win you over because we love them, but this script is not great.
What I'd say about it is you see a little bit of this in the next episode as well. But I liked the ideas, sort of. Like, I like the idea of a guy spending his last night before he becomes a priest in the bar. That could be interesting. But it seems like, and we've seen this a few times. Yeah, we've seen this a few times the first few episodes here, where they rely too much on some stranger is going to come into the bar and carry a storyline. They're not fully confident in the actual characters that we're getting to know carrying a storyline yet.
No, that's a great point. It's something we've seen kind of throughout this whole first season. Plus, there's less characters. We don't have Frasier. Cliff isn't a regular yet. We don't have Lilith or even the anyone. Melville.
What was his name? The guy Paul who used to sit at later on. Would sit there for the one-off joke. Yeah, none of those guys are there.
So the cast is pretty small. So I think because of that, they rely on these guests. And you're right, it's a lot of reacting to these weird people that walk in as opposed to the weird people we know and love and Cheers.
So this episode, just to describe it a little, this is with the World War I vet, right, from the AC Doocy, and then the guy Kevin, who's going to be a monk. And this is where it got better over time, but they didn't have that formula yet, and Seidenfeld just completely brought it to the next level. Or Larry David tying that all in, like. I always wondered, like, why does there have to be two different storylines that the trajectories, they never meet, they never cross? Like Kevin and the World War I vet, why wasn't there? Could have been something funny there,
right?
And they're totally separate.
That's what I was saying about the plot. It's like, okay, there's something there. It's an interesting idea they had. It just went nowhere. It felt very flat. It was just a nothing episode to me. And like, there were a couple decent lines. Like Carl had a couple, I thought, clever jabs at Diane, shit like that.
As always.
But that even felt a little flat. There was just no energy to this episode.
No, that's a great word. There's no energy. There was no pacing to it. When we started doing the first few episodes, like, I don't know, episodes like 3, 4, 5, it was kind of that same sloggy thing. And then we kind of got out of that for a while. Like the Sam Simon written one, we got some other ones that were a lot better. And I felt like these two episodes, this one especially, just kind of regressed back to that plotty 1982 pace a little bit.
Yeah, brought us back down. And the one thing I will say, though, to Cheers' credit, I guess, is a tip of the cap for, there's kind of a Me Too moment where the guy goes after Diane. But we've seen this a couple times in Cheers so far. Very, very good of them for early 80s sitcom. They always protect the woman. They're always on the right side of history there, I've noticed, the few times they've dealt with that.
Unlike you.
Yes. I don't care for it. I wish they wrote it differently.
You were rooting for the guy. You're like, put your hand in her pants. What are you doing?
Of course, Mike gravitates to that. Oh, this looks interesting. Now, this is meat I can eat.
Come on. Let her defend herself.
So, in just on that topic, so, and Chris and I were going back and forth on this. I never liked Diane. Still can't. You know how your attitudes change over time, or you go back and you watch something that's different, right? I still can't stand her. I hated that she was in there, even though she's a pretty good actress. I hated that she was in that role, but I kind of get why they did it. It fits the profile. A few things that stuck out to me when Kevin attacks her. Did you notice? Usually they do, what is it? The fake kisses. There's a way to do it in acting. You kiss on the cheek or something so it looks real, but he's like attacking her neck. It's so overblown and phony. He throws her down, and I remember it because I just watched it again. Yeah. And he's like fake attacking her neck. It's very strange.
That even might be a symptom of like back then, just thinking I'm going to act wild and crazy to show that I'm drunk. Yeah. Rather than trying to do things that a drunk person would do,
Well, they could have taken a line from what's his name, Foster. What was that guy's name? He was sober, but he made a living playing a drunk. I think it was Foster, like the sunglasses, like Foster Grant or something. Remember the older guy with the beard? You guys never heard of him? Oh, no. I'll have to look up his name and send it to you. This guy was great, and he was like in that Dean Martin era, and as he get old, I remember him from Stay Home from School, and he'd be on a few shows, talk shows. and he was sober. He didn't drink, but he
Mhm.
always played a drunk, and he was excellent. He just kind of like drunk Greg Hill's imitation. Guy was great.
I guess Jonah Hill, when he was in the movie, I think like Get Him to the Greek or one of those type of movies. I think he said he filmed himself for a night of drinking, and like took one shot and kind of acted that out, wanted to see how he acted after that. Took 2 shots, wanted to see how he acted after that, and just filmed himself through a night of drinking to see how you get as you progress through the night, which is something that this guy should have done.
That's a true study of the art, right?
It certainly is.
So Justin said it's Foster Brooks.
Foster Brooks. Now, it figures Justin knows. Yeah, you got to check him out. The guy was amazing. So I got to ask you guys, Mike, I know you like to catch the, I don't want to say the imperfections,
plot holes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I know that you like to catch on that. So at this point, I can't recall, has Norm's last name been said?
Thank you.
You know where I'm going with this, Chris?
I do.
Okay.
Oh,
has it been said?
I don't think I caught this, but no, I don't think it has
been, because I was thinking the same exact thing, Tim.
All right, go ahead and describe it, Chris.
Well, yeah, so that World War I soldier runs over and gives Norm a bear hug from behind, which sounds like a double entendre, but it wasn't. It was a friendly hug, and he calls him like Pinky Peterson or something.
Yes, he does.
And he thinks it's this old World War I veteran friend of his. And when he realizes how young Norm is, he kind of takes a step back. But Norm and no one in the bar react to the fact that his last name is Peterson. But Tim and I are probably thinking, is that the grandson? Is that where this plot's going? Where maybe Norm is the grandson or son of this soldier that died? But they never bring it up again.
Great catch, Tim. That is very odd.
Chris too. And then Chris, if you recall, he says something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you reminded my old foxhole mate Pinky Peterson," and he goes over it real quick. But then Norm's response is something about either he was in the service or something to do, like he made like some connection, but had nothing to do with the name. It was odd.
It was very odd. So I'm guessing we don't know Norm's last name yet.
But the reason I ask about that too is, so you guys got me down a rabbit hole with Coach yesterday. So I started reading about his the real I forget what his name is, Colasanto. Nick Colasanto, buried in Rhode Island. And so I started reading about Coach. I have a little tidbit of trivia here too, but so if you read, there's a Wikipedia, a Cheerspedia page or something like that, where it's as though Coach is a real person, and they give his you know how writers will write a whole bio about somebody even though it doesn't come into it. I thought this was so strange, but maybe this is just the way it's done. There's a whole bio that lists Coach. We all know his wife passed away. We know he had one daughter. Did you know he had 2 brothers?
No, I don't. I don't remember that being brought up.
Why exactly? It was never ever brought up, but it's written into his character bio by the writers that he had 2 brothers. He actually did serve in the Navy in World War II, just like he does on the show. But I just thought it was very odd that they add these things. There was something else that they added in there, but they add in for character development, but it's never ever brought up on the show. And even the daughter was only once.
Right. I should. Well, to be fair, Coach is only on for like 2.5 seasons.
Yeah, it was very short.
But I should use this opportunity to apologize to a Minifan that reached out to me. I think Daniel was his name, and he's just a guy. He's like, "Hey, you asshole! Since I've been watching this show, now my phone gives me like daily Cheers articles that I'm supposed to click on, and now he just sends them. He doesn't even say anything to me; he just sends them to me every day."
Just what you need, right?
To Tim's point, Sports Illustrated wrote a whole article. I think it might have been right when Cheers went off the air, of like a fake Sam Malone article of like his career.
Did they? I don't know.
It was something. Like a whole like basically bio of his career, which was funny. Like more like focusing on the Red Sox side of it than the Cheers side.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see someone, even like Barstool or something, doing a fake like 30 for 30 for a character like that now, something like that. So that makes sense. I can see that being funny.
Anything else on this episode, boys?
Nah, it really just boredom was the word I felt most watching this. I'd give it a. Maybe I'm being generous because there's some episodes I liked less. I'd give it a 50, completely average.
I give it a 46, and I felt I was generous giving it that.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah.
Tim,
I'd give it same as Mike, just totally average. I love Coach, so the more he talks about it. Can I give you a little bit of trivia about Coach that I learned too?
Sure.
So apparently, fast forward to, and again, this is you guys' fault because you got me down this rabbit hole. Season 11. There's an episode where Rebecca's dad. Do you remember her dad?
Yes.
He was a Navy captain.
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
He comes to visit her. That gentleman, I forget his name. It's Rob something. He was offered the role of coach and declined.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is interesting because you could see him doing. I mean, they say Nick was nothing like the actual coach, which that's what acting is. But
yeah, I was gonna say it would be a little different, maybe. But I guess I could see that.
Yeah.
So he turned down a job for 11 years because had he stayed alive, there would be no Woody. Like, what an idiot! That was like a great gig.
I think he was, but that was early, Chris. That was before they even selected coach. So I think this guy had already done some movies, and also found out that Nick Colasanto was a pretty big time director of TV shows back in the day.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
he's in Raging Bull, isn't he?
He is the mob guy in Raging Bull. Yeah. Wow, you good memory there, brother. And he
it's an odd watch. When you see him on there, it's very jarring because you keep waiting for him to be like coach. He's not. And you're like, what the fuck?
And he had quite a few shows to his credit, but then apparently he had a 20-year-long struggle with alcoholism, and he even talked about it later that he couldn't get a job directing after all that time being alcoholic, and the alcoholism contributed to he had heart failure, and they say that probably contributed to it. So interesting guy, considering he had such a short run, and his role was the cut up.
Yeah, and Tim, I don't want to spoil too many fun facts. When we get to season 11 in 2025, I think that's when we'll really focus, when we'll bear down on this stuff.
We can bring Tim back for that.
I was going to say thanks, Chris. So I can come on that one show and say, "This is the one I meant."
Remember, guys?
Yeah, he directed Hawaii Five-0, Starsky and Hutch, Bonanza, Columbo, and one of my favorite shows, Chips.
What a
DEC as well.
Great show.
To think he died the doofus bartender. When
You're right.
So much more than Nick Colasanto.
A textured man. The next one is The Spy that came in for a cold one, which came out on December 16th, 1982. I mentioned that because it's kind of a Christmas theme. And this is their last episode in 1982.
So this is this is the mid-season finale, I guess. Which
I think so.
You didn't get that vibe. I mean, usually, at least now, maybe not as much back then, but usually sitcoms will do a real Christmas episode. For some reason, they feel the need to do holiday episodes. Cheers, there isn't a lot of that. I know there's a couple Thanksgiving episodes. I don't know if there's a ton of holiday-oriented
Halloween
episodes.
ones, isn't there, with Gary's Old Town Tavern? Am I remembering that right? Aren't there some of them Halloween?
Oh, The Rival.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
We're not quite there yet. But, I mean, the Christmas one, though, they have the Christmas decorations up. I mean, it did come out December 16th. They knew that. But other than very light mention, this could have been any day, the Christmas episode.
Yeah, I thought this was I thought this was slightly better than the last one, but I was again a little bored by it. It seemed kind of flimsy. So there's a spy in the bar. A guy's very attracted to Carla. She starts talking to him. He reveals that he's a spy, and Carla's very taken by him. My first issue is with that, because as the episode goes on, Diane's the one who's kind of cynical about him. Carla's the biggest skeptic in the bar. That's already kind of been established. Why is she the one that's going to be
Chris,
immediately suckered by him?
Mike, I know you're blind.
For Carla.
Yes.
There's that hatred.
Yeah, I know he hates Carla.
Go ahead.
I do know Mike has trouble seeing, but I don't think many patrons are hitting on Carla. So I think that anyone at all is going to win her over.
Swayed.
Yes.
See, I think that should have been the first red flag. Carla's self-deprecating a little bit. She's hip to that sometimes.
She is.
I think she should have smelled this one out. I think that was a little bit of a plot hole.
Well,
but,
don't you think that's part of her character, which is she's hard scrabble, grew up tough, had a tough life, and doesn't have it so great, and she just wants to believe something?
Tim, it's funny you say that because it leads me to my next point. And that is that the heartbreak that Carla feels when some asshole who's in a bar who she's
is
known
lying
for
to her.
3.5 minutes, is lying to her, and she's like, "I can't. Why would you do it?"
You fucking hate Carla so much.
You
fucking
right,
hate.
Chris.
You hate her.
I hate that the whole place comes to a hush. And it's
See?
like, "What, sir? We've known you for
hates
upwards
her,
of
dude.
6 minutes now.
Oh,
Why would
that's
you
too
lie
funny.
to us?"
And it is a valid point. I mean, that's where I think you're talking about. It's flimsy. Like, yeah, we know she wouldn't. It's a comedy, but still, you get to the come on, at least make me believe it. You know.
Yeah,
and
it's a bit of a stretch for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole episode kind of is. This is a little bit ridiculous. Even Cheers typically isn't this ridiculous. This was written by David Lloyd. David Lloyd wrote for Cheers the entire run, and then wrote for Wings. And his son Christopher Lloyd, not that Christopher Lloyd, a different Christopher Lloyd, also wrote for Frasier. Was one of the main people there, and was a big guy on Wings as well.
Yeah, and then created Modern Family.
That's right.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, there's a showrunner for Modern Family. So his son was very successful. David Lloyd, though, was a writer for Cheers for 11 seasons.
Yeah, it was odd. Again, I look back and think of Seinfeld, like it could have been something so much more. Like remember when the writing got way more tighter, and when they accepted Frasier into the group was when they had him looking for the grouse or whatever it was. They had him on the hunt, and he knew the whole time. I thought that was pretty ingenious, right? But at this point, they didn't really weave it into anything. You never see the guy again. It was odd that all these people are hanging on his every word, like as if they really believe it. It was kind of like, we need this prop in order to write jokes that we already thought of. We have to have this prop instead of let's write some jokes a different way.
Yeah, it was very ham-handed, and if this was a guy who was kind of established as maybe sort of a recurring character, and then in season 2 or something, he comes in and it's like, holy shit, this guy was lying, then that would be something. Yeah. But it's like, why are we all broken up about this fucking guy? I will say, the guy who plays him, Ellis Rabb, I think his name is.
Yes, that's correct.
He was, you bring up Frasier, Tim, my fun fact of the week.
Oh, you steal my fun fact.
Oh, really? He was the inspiration for the voice of Sideshow Bob in The Simpsons.
The guy who was playing the spy?
Yeah,
that's right. Yes.
Really?
The eccentric millionaire. That's
Kelsey
Grammer was kind of doing an impersonation.
No shit. The acting was excellent.
He seems like I guess he's a big deal on Broadway. Actor, director, all that type of shit.
Yeah.
He won a special Tony in 1976 for directing, and I guess was a big deal. And Kelsey Grammer worked with him on Broadway, and that's how he knew him, not from Cheers, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Kelsey Grammer told some story where like he used to paint his house or something like that. I assume when Kelsey Grammer was very young in acting. Yeah.
Wow, I know he did do odd jobs for a long time. Wow. Yeah. I do have a couple of I have one, not plot hole, but a little thing I picked up on Mike.
Okay.
Remember at the beginning of the cold open, the sailor comes up to Norm and he says, where can I? Yeah. That gentleman was not adhering to U.S. Navy regulation standards on grooming.
Really?
Yes. Speaking as a former Navy reservist.
Okay.
You could not have hair touching the ears. And I just picked up on it because as soon as I saw the piping and the uniform, like, these guys get his dress blow. Yeah. Not one American does right as that. Just slap this uniform on this guy. But it's his hair is going over the ears. That is against Navy regs. And he was only an E3, so it's not like he had the cachet to do that. That was my only catch.
Excellent. Unbelievable catch. Although I'll say that open was one of the 2 episodes, that was one of the funnier parts of the 2 episodes, I would say. That was a decent
I agree. Yeah, I chuckled for sure. I mean, and I think George Wendt's really good. George Wendt has a background in improv. I think he's really comfortable just like embracing a character quickly. Like he's Norm instantly. And he's really good. He's really fun. And he does a nice job, obviously, this entire show. But him and like Ted Danson knew their characters immediately. A couple of the other ones you can see a little struggles here. But those two knew it.
Taking a while.
That's a good point, Chris. Norm was Norm from day one. That's a good point. He never really changed the whole entire time. That never really changed.
I would give this one a slight bump over the other one, but not crazy. I'd give it a 55, just above average.
I give it a 63. Mike, were you disappointed there wasn't any rape or anything like that in this one?
Well, I mean, a little bit. I'm like, hey, it's the 80s here. Like, give us something. A little titillating. Yeah.
What are we doing if we're not assaulting somebody?
Exactly. We're in a bar, for Christ's sake. This is a dive. Am I wrong?
Tim, what do you give it? And then I do want to have another point on this one too.
I'm going to give it a much higher mark. I thought it was way better than the last one. I think they were just getting their feet under them. So I'm giving it a 75 only because I'm putting it in the context of having seen it when it was on. And I can tell you that I thought it was very funny when I originally saw it back in 80, whatever. The show was killer. I mean, I remember the last show and watching wall-to-wall coverage across all 3 networks.
Oh yeah.
Right about that last show and you couldn't even get near the Common that day. It was massive. So yeah, I think if I put it back in the time that it aired, I give it 75. I thought it was very funny. Although the end I thought was very stupid. I'll buy you a bar for $1 million. Oh, I'll throw in another $1 million for the piano.
That was lame. The very end of the episode was interesting. It goes to Mike's point. It was kind of a mid-season finale because Sam does say at the very end, like I think I'm falling in love with you.
Yeah.
And and then she doesn't know if he's stuck around or not. And that is kind of what this whole season kind of hinges on. And you wonder, this episode felt like filler. It felt like they had to get an episode in there to kind of get him into the next year. And it just felt like something just kind of throw together. But that last piece, though, is probably the biggest takeaway of that episode of the last 2 lines.
Yeah, that was an important thing. Like, that was a good job by them. But even more than calling it filler, like to tweak that a little bit, I would say, because it's been a theme through these first 12 episodes, where I think the original idea might have been that they could get away with having Sam and Diane and then these kind of side characters that are in the episodes but not huge focal points, and we would get stories from people that come in the bar, all these interesting characters that walk in for a day,
a bar, right?
And you never see them again.
Tell the story. Yeah,
I think they pretty quickly realized that's going to be real tough to do. Because
I think it also realized they had some really talented people to work with.
Yeah,
I think they realized with George Wendt and Ratzenberger and Coach and Carla, they realized that we have some people we can have really carry some shows. We don't need to just rely on Ted Danson and Shelley Long.
And as much as I don't like Diane's character, Shelley Long does a good job of playing that role. And I think anytime someone says, "Oh, I hate that person," and it's a character, I think they're doing a good job because they convinced you that that's them.
Right.
But I also, so Chris, something that I think that you had just touched on was, where they're getting their legs under them. I think that, I know what it was. Remember the last episode and this episode? It's funny you say about them making a connection. I felt like Sam's role was almost like he was trying to keep his 2 daughters from killing each other. Because he's always saying, "Knock it off. You two cut it out," right?
Yeah.
And then I thought, it's kind of weird that now he's attracted to one of his daughters. So, Mike, maybe there is something that's more up your alley there.
Tim, I appreciate you giving me an angle that I can work with. I appreciate that.
But he was more of a, not on the same level. He was more of the in-charge parental type with the preppy daughter and,
like a tomboy, if you will.
Leather and lace. Yeah.
I think you see that loosen up a little bit as the seasons go on.
Yeah, he does. He does play referee a lot, though. It's kind of think especially if the script doesn't he'll be like the straight man, if you will, and they'll kind of have him play that role. He is the boss of the bar, so I guess it makes sense on some level. But yeah, Mike, did you feel that was accurate? Like there's maybe some incestual things going on with the show? You're kind of the resident expert.
I hope so. That's why I'm watching. That's why I got into that. That's how it was billed to me.
That's great.
Good.
Tim, any other as a Cheers expert, anything else you want to address before? We'll have you back anytime. But
definitely. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I love the show. I'm definitely not an expert. I think I was an expert at the time because it was just so big.
Did you watch from season 1? I don't know. I'm not sure how old you are, but
yeah. I'm not old, brother. I'm not old.
Very impressive, Tim.
I remember when the show began. I was a teen, a young teen.
Wow.
Yeah, young teen, and I do remember it. It was required viewing. I'm trying to remember what show was on before it that led into it. There was another pretty big show. But yeah.
Well,
and
after
I
not this
everyone.
season, but it became the Cosby Show that was on before, which helped them a lot. But I'm not sure what was on before season 1.
Yeah, I forget. That really came out in gang. There was nothing like that type of show at the time that I recall. But then again, when you're younger, you're not watching the same crap your parents are. My parents were watching the Carol Burnett show. I didn't think it was funny.
Right.
Now I do.
I mean, this show the first season didn't do very well ratings wise, but it did win the Emmy for best comedy. So like it was a critical hit. Like this was a really funny show for its time. Just no one was watching it. But then after season 2, like Mike said, then it did blow up.
And don't you think that you guys have touched on this? Don't you think that it's a shame shows don't get that opportunity to grow? Like, have you guys ever seen the first episode of Seinfeld? Because it sucks.
Oh yeah,
it's awful. The first
Horrible.
season of Seinfeld is horrendous.
Right? It's terrible. And I remember my brother.
And it's not even the same show. Like Elaine's not in the first episode. It's awful.
Yeah, but they were able to grow it, and it's too bad because I think there's some shows that have come out that are that would be very good, but they're not allowed to grow. It's like, it doesn't hit in 2 episodes, you're gone.
Well, Netflix started allowing that a little bit, and HBO does to an extent, but even Netflix has stopped. Like, Netflix was always the place like, hey, we don't give a fuck. We have limitless space. We'll let you go a few seasons, even if you're failing. Now, Netflix has kind of become a little more network type run, where it's like, all right, no one's watching this season 1, you're done.
Yeah, it's going to be hit out of the gate. And Justin just posted, it was Family Ties, another great show.
One of my favorite shows.
Right?
I love that show. Alex P. Keaton might be my favorite character in TV history.
Alex P. Yeah, great show.
All right, boys. I think we covered it all this week.
All right. Mike, are you going to use this to defend your job on Monday? Like, hey, I did the Cheers show with Chris for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Shouldn't fire me.
Isn't this what you meant? Yeah.
Right.
So when you get, like, we all get reviews at work. So what have you done? What's your activity been? Well, I was on with
excuse me,
Chris.
Let me
we had Tim in.
Right. Yeah. We're going to be your character witnesses. You get to let go.
You'll all be in there. Justin, Allison, and Tara. All my partners.
Great.
Thank you, boys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Sorry, we're closed.